Hello everybody, Countdown VHS here with a brief little update, or maybe a correction to an oversight actually, for Total War Wainriders. We haven't had a Wainrider Wednesday for a few weeks, but a little conversation happening in the 4th Age and Wainriders Discord channels recently reminded me about this unit here. This is the Witch King's Retinue, and this is a unit that did not appear in the preview videos for Angmar, and I believe there's a very simple reason for that. In those preview videos for the unit rosters, what I would do is go into a custom battle scenario and select the units that were there, and then have a little custom battle and show you what all was available that way. The Witch King, though, is almost certainly not going to be available in a custom battle scenario. He is a unique one-off unit. And so it's kind of like how in 4th Age with the Elven faction, if you wanted to do a custom battle there, you wouldn't get Glorfindel's Noldor Riders, I believe anyway. So at any rate, that's probably a big part of why you haven't seen this guy before, but he has been ready for quite some time, and a very, very cool looking unit actually. Over the course of that discussion in the Discord, people were asking about the strength of some of these special units, because of course we're using the Alexander EXE. And, you know, people who have played 4th Age know that you had, a unit like Glorfindel who is very powerful, essentially immortal. And how is that going to work in Wainriders, where you've got guys like the Witch King running around, and you still have units like Glorfindel. You've got Elven characters with their own retinues and so on. How is that all going to work? Well, I think I can probably sum it up best and most fairly by saying that overall, in Wainriders, we're looking at probably a smaller differential in power between these special units and the sort of more typical baseline units that are available to different factions. The reason Glorfindel worked and was somewhat balanced in 4th Age is because, of course, there was no immortality for his unit. His unit was not a unit that you could train, and it was tied to that character, that bodyguard. And so when he inevitably died of old age, or sailed into the west, is what we renamed that mechanic, you would lose that unit, that very powerful, very fun unit to use. And so that is not the case in Wainriders, where we do plan to have units or characters who will not die of old age. At least many of them won't. There will be some characters who will. There will be some characters who will live longer than normal lifespans. There will be some who will never die of old age. And so given that, we can't really make characters who are as invincible as Glorfindel is without some serious drawbacks. The Witch King, of course, is probably one of the most notorious such units. So in terms of how this will actually work, I do have to preface this all by saying that we're looking at work-in-progress stuff, and we have not yet gotten to the point where we're talking about balancing battle strength and tweaking the campaign for different factions and so on. We're just not there yet. We're still implementing a lot of features. We're still doing work on rosters and units and levy units that you can train in different parts of Middle-earth. So that stuff will come later. But I think just going into it, our general philosophy is to not make these guys really one-man armies. With the Witch King, I can take a look, actually, if I can do a little preview here. Obviously, a work in progress here with the description. Consider this all placeholder stuff, essentially. But you can tell in a certain sense that we're thinking this will be a scary unit. Frighten the nearby enemy. We've given him a bonus fighting riders, bonus versus riders and large creatures. That's almost certainly because of the spears that his retinue are wielding. So that's where those rider bonuses and the large creature bonuses are coming in. The frightening power is going to be, obviously a big part of it. He's obviously expect him to have a quite good morale and a powerful charge. But really, apart from that, what else can you do? One thing that we're doing for a lot of Angmar's units, if not all of them, is giving them a combat bonus in the snow, because we know that there was some reference to, at least when Arvedui was stuck up with the Lossoth, they were talking about how the Witch King was sort of like the king of the winter, and his power was loosed in the springtime. So we can sort of interpret that to say that he had some sort of maybe control over the weather, and maybe troops that fought under him were ensorcelled to be more strong in those conditions. He doesn't have that ability currently. Maybe he won't. Maybe he will. We'll see how it goes. Obviously, a lot of the stuff you can do in Rome Total War is not high-powered magic type stuff, and so a lot of the tweaks, the levers we have at our disposal, are not going to make these guys super super impactful, apart from giving them really inflated stats. We don't necessarily want to do that because we don't want to have a scenario in which you feel like you need to bring 10 ballistas to every battle with Angmar in case the Witch King shows up, right? But at any rate, this is sort of a look at the visual design for the unit. So I love, of course, the mace. That's an essential part of his armament, right? A little bit more reasonable than the Peter Jackson version, but I like that sort of callback there. And the helmet, of course, looks very, very nice. He's got some mail. One of the things that came out of the discussion in the Discord was that this character here is not one to shy from a fight. And another thing that occurs to me is the nature of the taunts that he leveled against Eärnur. So after the conflict, right, in which he fled, he also taunted Eärnur for fleeing and challenged him to single combat. Now, that doesn't, of course, mean that he actually fought him in single combat. That doesn't mean at all that he treated Eärnur fairly. Of course, I doubt that very much. But it does maybe set up the idea that maybe in his weaker moments, the Witch King would have thought of himself as something of a tough combatant. And you may imagine that the flight he was forced into kind of galled at him, and so he's maybe took that out on Eärnur in some way. So he's a very well-armored guy, and he's leading a bunch of very well-armored men, although I want to put a little asterisk after that word men, because from a distance, this can look like it's a heavy cav unit, right? Just a bunch of guys with spears and armor. But looking close up, there's something about the eyes that are not quite right. Looking right here, probably you can see it best. This is also the case with some of the units in 4th Age Total War. The cultic units in particular had this kind of unhealthy look to them. Sort of very, very dark eyes, almost like they didn't have any whites in the eyes. And there's sort of the door was open for interpretation there that these could be somehow magical, maybe just very sleep deprived, who knows. But I like to sort of think that these are some men who have been maybe strengthened by sorcery, because we know that some of the men of Angmar were dabblers in that art, and with the Witch King to lead them, they no doubt would have benefited from whatever he had. This guy, you can see the same thing. Very cool banner bearer there. This unit has swords as a backup weapon. Let's actually see what we're going to look at here. So basically what I did is I brought these guys down on the campaign map, because again, they're not available in a custom battle. I guess I could have made them available, but didn't bother to do that. So I brought them down the campaign map towards Fornos to put that under siege, and waited for Arnor to turn around and attack, and they did attack. Okay, so this is actually where the main army is coming from. We should get up here then. So Arnor attacked with that. There's the besieged force. There's Fornost over here. We're sort of, as you can tell, kind of like east of it, slightly northeast perhaps, the North Downs, I guess. And this is their reinforcing army that is attempting to break the siege. This is a unit of the bodyguard for Arnor, and the name of this unit escapes me at the moment, but we will get to that shortly once they come into range. Over here, what else are they bringing? Well, this is their faction leader. Oh, actually, no, this is Dunedain Militia. The fur-trimmed capes that many of these units wear confused me for a moment. So this is like their swordsman unit. It says militia, but they're actually quite strong. They've got some longbowmen as well, and then the nobles of Arnor. So this is their bodyguard here. So this is the faction leader, actually. And so they're all setting up. We've got, in addition to the Witch King's retinue, I just wanted to bring some other units, mostly for just a reference point. These are some of the lower tier guys. We've got archers and we've got spears. These are going to be like some of your most basic units that you can have available. As you can see, they've got like padded armor, basically, but not a whole lot else. The other units that I brought were just stuff that I had to hand, and these include the Spears of Angmar. This is the bodyguard unit that Angmar will actually have. So Angmar, of course, is not going to have a bunch of Witch King's retinue, bodyguards. This is unique. This is special for the Witch King himself. And in terms of most of your family members, all of your other family members, in fact, are going to be this infantry unit, which we have seen before in the previews. Two-handed spears, good armor. We tried to lean into what little we knew of Angmar with regard to its fighting prowess, and we thought that spears might be sort of a kind of a reference point based on what I think it's Mary who says that, or maybe Pippin in the Barrow. The men of Carn Doom came upon us in the night, and we were worsted. The spear in my breast, right? So, okay, we seized upon that like all modders do. Any tiny reference point you have, you seize on that, and we said, okay, spears. We'll give them, I guess we'll make spears their thing, because you have so little else. Dunedain Militia are winning currently. I'm going to let them, win for a little while. All these guys, actually, we're thinning out the herd of Longbowmen quite well at the moment. I don't know where the other bodyguard unit has got to. Possibly they're doing a long outflanking. Oh, okay, they're going way over here. Well, let's see these guys in a charge. This should work out pretty well. See if they can lower their lances appropriately. Yeah, that looks good. Let's see. 37, 36, losing heavily, 35. Okay. Yep, we're doing fairly well here, as you would imagine. And there's the Witch King himself getting into it with the mace. So this, again, is all work in progress. You can't read too much into this in terms of the performance in the battle, because we have not done any attempts to balance this. Nobles of Arn are now evenly matched, now winning easily. So we'll just see how it goes. This is more just for fun and to get a sense of the visuals. Let's bring these guys around, I guess. Maybe we can attempt to try to win here. Nobles of Arnor, of course, are not going to be super affected by the fear effect of our bodyguard unit. They're going to have quite good morale themselves. Now they're losing heavily. I mean, probably this unit should be mostly a fear-based unit. And not necessarily one that you want to have in a combat all the time. I guess one concern there, or one challenge with with balancing such a unit, is if you have other units that are capable of causing fear, the specialty, the specialness of this sort of goes down, right? The relative value of it goes down. I'm trying to think of the roster that Angmar currently has, and exactly how that, do they have other fear units, or do they not? I can't quite remember. In terms of the Orcish units, that's probably the place I would think to look next in terms of what other units might cause fear. They may have some others. But the other thing, of course, is what we would like to do is have this be like a Alexander type situation, where if you're playing Angmar and you lose the Witch King, then you lose the campaign. The campaign is over. You don't get one of these guys to sort of take up the reins. It's Witch King or nothing. So that by itself will be really a bit of a restraint, right? A bit of a balancing feature. These Nobles of Arnor are just really doing quite good. I did another battle actually recently where we did a lot better against them. Not in this exact same kind of setup. So maybe this guy has lots of good traits or something that just make him a lot stronger. Looks like we did lose a family member here among the Spears of Angmar. Yep. And again, a lot of the names, a lot of this stuff is just work in progress. Yazid of Central Khand is definitely not going to be the name of the bodyguard. In terms of portraits for battle and so on, like this is... I'm quite sure this is not going to be the Witch King's portrait. Maybe this is how he looked in life, and maybe it's how he would prefer to think of himself. But probably not. Well, I think we'll probably call the battle here. We don't need to go through this, especially since they're not playing along. They're just sitting over there by the woods. We're not going to bring this to the bitter conclusion, but I just wanted to give you a sort of a visual taste of something we had not covered in the campaign, or at least in any of the previews so far, and that is the look of the Witch King. They are celebrating their victory. All right, so we will see what other types of things we'll have to preview in the future. There were a few other questions asked in the Discord that might make good topics for other short videos, just to answer some of those questions. So maybe that's where we'll look at in the future for other updates. So in the meantime, everybody, until the next one, take care.